another live, and I'm like, where are the people that I see? Lord, I don't went live under the Candace live, child. Hey, good people. Hey, T-Sippers. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? So come on in, so we can get caught up on what's going on. What's going on? Now, where's the one where I was at? And I pushed the wrong button live. Here I go. Hey, here we go. So listen, they demonetized me today. So if you're wondering where is the gold, there is no gold. There is no super chat, super stickers. All of that is gone. If you want to support the platform, please hit my Cash App. Yeah, they are not wanting the tea, the truth to come out. Kind of knew something was going on when they kept playing with my Wi-Fi and playing with just playing. It's just been a bunch of playing. At one point, I thought that I was what was it? Being censored. So it went from being censored. Uh, they changed their policies. They what I saw was like the end of March. And what I think did it, I'm not sure. Right now, the wonky internet, it got me 2 times during earlier streams. Yeah, it's been some changes. I saw one guy who said he had been going live for 9 years. And I kind of think I have an idea. It almost feel like it was intentional. Another one of those ways of controlling, censoring, and taking people's financial who on certain topics. And when I think about it, I'm like, well, what did I do different here recently? And I started playing those little Lego things that have no humans in there. But they be so on point until you want to watch them. You know what I mean? But it's neither here nor there. Once it happened, I started thinking, did somebody do it? Did somebody intentionally do it? But I don't think so, not based on what they said. And then after I spoke with a couple of people. So in order for me to be going the way, I'm still going to bring the tea. We've been here before. I'm not going to dummy down on the truth. My position on wanting to make sure my tea sippers are informed with what is going on so that we won't be behind in knowledge still goes forth. I still have a responsibility uh, in my relationship with God, you know. So that's not going to stop. Now, how long I stay on? Without some assistance or help or, some gratitude. I'm trying to, donation by my Cash App. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a bad time, But it is what it is. I'm not going to stop bringing the truth. The truth is going to set us free, whether I'm monetized or not. So, but all that extra skip, hop, and big and not, well, feel like big and to hit the like button, I still want to be in the algorithm. I still want the truth to go forward. I'm not going to stop, okay? It may be Lego copy. No, it's a change of policy that went into effect on the 31st. And they knew that was, they know what they doing. they're trying to censor it. And the Legos was is coming from Iran, so it wouldn't be honoring a copyright where they may. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think it was intentional that they. I don't know, but I just think the AI and those Legos, it was no human activity, but it gave us all the information. You know, they were telling us the truth. And when we think about who owns YouTube, you know, all the who owns the media, I'm thinking that it's more that they don't want us to be able to see the truth, know the truth, and definitely not spread it. I mean, why push AI and then demonetize because of AI? What does that make sense to anybody? I don't know, but you know, you push it, censorship, at absolutely, and then the average person is gonna say, "Oh, no, I ain't getting paid." Oh, and gonna steer away from it, you know. But we've been here before. We so proud of our Auntie Fee and the tea sippers and the yeah. Yeah, we are some tea sipper family, and I promise you, I'm not going to not bring the truth because they took my monetization. God will make a way. He is a way maker. He is an absolute way maker, and He's done it once. He will do it again. Amen. Lord, are you saying that? Yeah, don't make me start saying no weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. Yeah, no, y'all not gonna stop the truth. And there's a lot going on today. So when I mean there's a lot going on today on Trump, his former attorney getting disbarred. They all gonna get disbarred. He's talking about doing pardons for everybody in his cabinet under his administration. Who does that? He is a year and 4 months in, and he already talking about pardoning everybody. But I mean, you know, everybody has done illegal activity, right? Did you get to see Vance? You know what? Standing with you. Thank you, Janet. Miss Tom, I'm not, I don't know how I'm going to be able to play them. You know, you can hear it, but I'm not going to be able to play it if I'm going to, at some point, attempt to get my monetization back. You know, I got to really figure out what, you know, because that's considered AI. And it's not human. So I'm really going to have to kind of stay away from it or just listen to it. Because the minute I started saying, oh, they can't see it, I want them to see it, you know, and took my background down, then guess what happened? So I don't know you won't be. It's fabulous. Can you read it? Well, what they saying, Miss Tom, there you go. You and you vertical. Absolutely, but they still got me. But when I watch it, I want to take it down so y'all can see it. So I'll check it out and see what I can do. But right now, I got to see how I'm going to be supported with and not be monetized. And I didn't like it before, and I'm sure not going to like it now. But it is what it is. It is what it is. No strikes, no none of that. Okay, so let's listen to what's going on right here with old Trump to the dump dump dump. Do me, baby. Cause he in trouble, y'all. He in trouble. He already talking about pardoning. Let's go in, let's listen.
Meantime, the Justice Department yesterday releasing previously unseen documents from the Epstein files related to a woman who made accusations against President Trump.
Did I pin it? I thought I pinned it.
News summaries from 2019 when the FBI interviewed a woman who made those allegations against both. Meantime, the Justice Department yesterday releasing previously unseen documents from the Epstein files related to a woman who made accusations against President Trump. Now, the documents include news summaries from 2019 when the FBI interviewed a woman who made those allegations against both Epstein and the president. The woman claims she was assaulted by Trump in the 1980s.
So, here's the scoop. The Justice Department dropped some never-before-seen documents from the Epstein files, and they relate to a woman who accused President Trump of some serious stuff. These documents, dated back to 2019, include summaries from when the FBI interviewed this woman. She claims that Trump assaulted her way back in the 1980s. That's the woman that won, right? This is not a far-fetched story. It happened. Here we have the sitting president of the United States being literally dragged out by federal marshals because he wouldn't stop talking and just follow the judge's orders. He was yelling and defying warnings about potentially facing life in prison until the judge couldn't take it anymore.
Are y'all listening?
He wouldn't stop talking and just follow the judge back in the 1980s. This is not a far-fetched story. It happened. Here we have the sitting president of the United States being literally dragged out by federal marshals because he wouldn't stop talking and just follow the judge's orders. He was yelling and defying warnings about potentially facing life in prison.
President.
Until the judge couldn't take it anymore.
That's why you're talking about pardoning.
When the marshals stepped in to physically escort him out.
When she was between the ages of 13 and 15, the president has consistently maintained any wrongdoing. It's unclear whether the FBI considered the allegations credible. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment that has stated in the past that some of the claims in the Epstein files are unfounded and false. Authorities have not accused Trump of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein.
You might remember that a witness broke down and accused Trump of ordering the witness tampering. The judge even threatened the witness with life in prison. For 2 hours, Trump fell completely silent. No noise at all. So here's the scoop. Things were pretty quiet for a while, and Trump was sticking to his usual line, denying any wrongdoing related to the Epstein scandal. It seemed like the FBI wasn't convinced by the allegations either. The White House hadn't chimed in right away, but previously, they dismissed some of those Epstein claims as unfounded and false. As of now, there haven't been any accusations against Trump concerning Epstein. But then things took a turn. Trump decided that staying silent wasn't the way to go. He opted to step into the courtroom and confront the judge head-on, which turned out to be a huge mistake. He hopped on a video feed from the White House to watch the proceedings, absorbing all the testimony and evidence being laid out. After hours of sitting in silence, he just lost it. Out of nowhere, he starts shouting, calling it an illegal coup, insisting the judge had no right to do what he was doing. He was throwing around terms like witch hunt and just wouldn't stop. Judge Sullivan had to step in and tell him to quiet down and let the hearing go on, but Trump wasn't having it. He kept screaming, repeating illegal coup over and over, 17 times to be exact. Can you imagine that? The whole courtroom just froze, with everyone in shock at the sight of the President of the United States having a full-blown meltdown right there in federal court. It really was something to behold, seeing a president flat out refusing to obey a federal judge's order. And at that moment, Judge Sullivan had to finally say, "Remove the defendant." The judge really laid it down when he said, "Remove the defendant. He's a clear and present danger." Suddenly, marshals were on the move as they approached Trump on the video screen, clearly ready to
25th
take
Amendment
action.
now.
Trump noticed them coming and tried to leave the scene on his own, but he just couldn't get away quick enough. Before he knew it, they had reached him, grabbed him, and physically escorted him out of the room. And all of this was happening live on television, with millions of viewers across the globe witnessing it.
Y'all, please hit the
People were
like
watching
button.
the
225
president
people
literally being
in, only
dragged out of
12
a
likes.
federal
Come on, y'all.
courtroom by federal marshals, fighting and screaming as he went. It was a scene that was simultaneously historic and chaotic, a moment where constitutional history was being written right before our eyes, one that historians would surely discuss for ages to come. But the drama didn't stop there. While Trump was getting yanked from the courtroom, members of Congress were voting on invoking the 25th Amendment. A staggering 288 representatives cast their votes to push the removal process forward, which is definitely a supermajority, a strong enough signal to declare the president unfit for office. The courtroom ejection and the House's vote were happening simultaneously, crafting a picture of government in synchronized mayhem. At the same time, Mike Pence was with Republican leaders and the cabinet was being called to gather. They were under pressure to vote immediately on whether to use the 25th Amendment to remove Trump. It felt like the entire government was in a whirlwind of action, frantic and unprecedented, with the judge issuing a contempt arrest warrant, standard protocol when someone defies court orders. Trump officially became an arrestee, a fugitive facing contempt charges. On top of that, he was also staring down the barrel of potential removal from office via the 25th Amendment. And there were significant obstruction charges that could lead to life in prison hanging over him. All this chaos unfolded at once, marking a breakdown in governance that felt like the very...
This is when it said, well, that's what it, hold on. It's moving slow. Oh, yeah. How long goes that? Did I miss that? Let's go.
Charges. On top of that, he was also staring down the barrel of potential removal from office via the 25th Amendment. And there were significant obstruction charges that could lead to life in prison hanging over him. All this chaos unfolded at once, marking a breakdown in governance that felt like the very foundations of constitutional order were shaking. This was the United States government caught in complete turmoil, and all of it stemmed from a president unable to keep his cool in a courtroom. So it all kicked off when Trump decided to fight back instead of just accepting the legal troubles he was facing. This morning was already a bit of a circus because he was staring down the barrel of life in prison. A judge had made it very clear what lay ahead, warning him about the serious consequences. The contempt charges were on a fast track, but Trump seemed to think he could muscle through it. He showed up in court, convinced he could defend himself and somehow flip the situation in his favor. It's like he believed the normal rules just didn't apply to him, even in front of a federal judge. But boy, was he mistaken. Catastrophically mistaken. The hearing was an emergency contempt session ordered by Judge Sullivan, and prosecutors were laying out all the evidence about witness tampering. They were putting documents on display, sharing testimonies about the Bondi memo redactions, and detailing payments made to Mar-a-Lago. It painted a picture that clearly indicated Trump had given direct orders to mess with witnesses in a federal investigation. All of this was unfolding in open court while Trump was watching from the White House on a video feed somewhere in the residence or the West Wing with his team. As he listened to the prosecutors detail how he obstructed justice and tampered with witnesses, he stayed quiet for the first few hours, following his lawyer's advice to keep his mouth shut and let them do their thing.
Now, I know that was hard for him. But, when I think about when I was listening to him yesterday, I don't know if I showed that particular one that because I thought it was old, but he was having like a press conference type of something, and he just sound humble briefly. He wasn't going off on the people, the reporters. It's like, this is kind of unusual. But he ain't never quiet. But I think he knew that it was serious. A lot of court is going on right now. A lot of court on him and his family. Because it was just odd that Ivanka did her little interview this week. Remember? And she almost cried. Well, she did cry, and I was like, "Oh, I can't get caught up in seeing a different side of her because she knew of those kids being auctioned in Mar-a-Lago." And then yesterday we was listening to Letitia James was getting prepared to seize the properties. So it's a lot going on. A lot is going on legally. But let's keep listening.
But after 3 long hours of hearing the case against him, something inside Trump snapped. He couldn't just sit there any longer listening to them talk about him without saying a word. Before long, he started talking, yelling really, at the judge through the video feed. He was claiming it was an illegal coup and accusing the judge of overstepping his authority. All the familiar phrases came out like witch hunt, echoing what his supporters wanted to hear. So there's this intense scene unfolding where Trump keeps claiming he's being treated unfairly, insisting it's all political persecution. He just won't stop yelling about it, and Judge Sullivan is trying to regain control, telling him he needs to let the hearing progress. The judge even issues a direct order for him to quit interrupting, but Trump just keeps on talking, yelling really. He mentions illegal coup 7 times, practically screaming it at the judge, while the whole courtroom watches in disbelief, including the prosecutors and the judge
Trump
himself.
is a mess. Hey,
It becomes
Marcus.
clear that Judge
Yes, he
Sullivan
is.
has reached his breaking point. He sees Trump isn't going to abide by the court's rules, so he decides enough is enough. With a firm command, he orders, remove the defendant. He's a clear and present danger. Those words carry a lot of weight, often used in the context of national security, indicating someone poses an immediate threat to others or the system. The judge isn't just saying Trump should leave. He's asserting that Trump is a genuine danger and must be taken out immediately. The marshals, trained for these situations, quickly move in on Trump. As they approach, Trump realizes he's about to be forcibly removed from the courtroom against his will, and he tries to make a break for it, but it's too late. They grab him by the arms and escort him out. The whole scene is broadcast live with millions of people tuning in to witness the former president getting dragged out, shouting all the while. His lawyers are seen trying to step in as the spectacle unfolds, showcasing a striking collapse of presidential dignity and authority. This is a moment like no other in American history, unprecedented and historic. And while all this drama plays out with Trump being led away, Congress is also busy voting on the invocation of the 25th Amendment.
So this is recent, baby.
Layer of significance
Oh,
to
bam.
the whole
I was
day.
waiting. I was waiting to see if he... Yeah. A lot is going on. Yeah. Timing is everything. A lot is going on. Let me back this up, y'all. We still got to get the truth. It's integrity. It's an integrity, it's a moral integrity test to continue to reign the truth before you. Again, the rule applies to me as it applies to everybody else. It's between me and God first. Then it's between me and y'all.
Getting dragged out, shouting
Krista,
all the while.
he does not
His lawyers
believe
are seen trying to step in as the spectacle unfolds, showcasing a striking collapse of presidential dignity and authority. This is a moment like no other in American history, unprecedented and historic.
Oh,
and
my
while
God.
all this drama plays out with Trump being led away, Congress is also busy voting on the invocation of the 25th Amendment, adding another layer of significance to the whole day. So here's how things are shaking out. A supermajority of 288 representatives just voted in favor of moving forward with the removal process. That's a clear signal that Congress believes the president is unfit to serve. Now, what's really striking about this is the timing. Right at the moment when Trump is being physically escorted out of a federal courtroom, Congress is voting to remove him from office using the 25th Amendment. It feels like a synchronized rejection from all corners of the government, sending a clear message that Trump can no longer hold the presidency. At the same time, Mike Pence, the vice president, is having meetings with Republican leaders. If Trump...
And let me think about this for a second. He can pardon everybody, can pardon everybody in his cabinet. But what he can't do, I don't think, because that's federal. They just need to charge him state. Charge him. The state needs to charge him. Yeah, it needs, state. So let him pardon federal and then hit him with state charges.
Trump is to be removed through the 25th Amendment, Pence would step up as president, and guess what? He's seemingly on board with this. He's actively discussing how to pull this off, coordinating with cabinet members to ensure they have the votes needed to make it happen. On top of that, the judge has issued a contempt arrest warrant against Trump. This means he's now officially under arrest for not following a court order, making him a fugitive. If law enforcement manages to track him down, they can take him into custody and hold him without bail, potentially indefinitely, until he either follows the court orders or faces prosecution. Trump's plate is overflowing with crises. He's up against contempt of court charges, obstruction of justice charges, and the possibility of life in prison looming from the original allegations. Let's not forget about the arrest warrants and the looming possibility of being removed from office through the 25th Amendment. It's a full-blown unraveling of his presidency and his personal freedom all happening at once. The evidence the prosecutors laid out in court was apparently quite damaging. They referenced the Bondi memo and pointed out that even with certain parts blacked out by the Attorney General, those redactions suggested Trump was involved in a cover-up. They brought in testimony from Kash Patel, which they asserted contradicted the evidence they presented. They even mentioned payments made to Mar-a-Lago that lined up with the timeline for witness tampering. They really built a thorough case. So let's get into what's really happening here with Trump. He's not just facing some vague accusations anymore. It's much more serious than that. Now he's got active arrest warrants and some hefty charges like contempt of court and obstruction of justice. And we're not talking about just minor offenses here. We're in a situation where life imprisonment is on the table, and even the judge isn't holding back on that.
Hey, Paul
Judge
Ward.
Sullivan made it pretty clear that Trump poses a current danger, which is quite a statement for a sitting president. To break it down, contempt of court happens when someone ignores a judge's orders. When Trump kept shouting in court despite being told to stop, he crossed that line. And now he's facing criminal charges because of it. An arrest warrant has even been issued, meaning he could be taken in at any moment if they find him. Meanwhile, the prosecutors are racing ahead with the obstruction charges, and they've gathered evidence showing that Trump directly told people to interfere with witnesses. They've connected those commands to payments and cover-ups orchestrated by his associates. They've really put together a solid case and are pushing forward. Next up is a trial where all this evidence will be laid out for a jury. And if it goes against him, we could really see what the judge warned about, a potential life behind bars. On the political side, things are heating up too. Congress has made a significant move, with 288 representatives voting to advance the invocation of the 25th Amendment. That's a supermajority and shows just how serious things are becoming across the board. So here's the deal. The House of Representatives has officially decided that they think Trump shouldn't be president anymore. That's pretty monumental. It kicks off a whole new process that involves the cabinet. Mike Pence has to gather the cabinet and get their approval to declare Trump unfit.
How in the
If he
world
pulls
did
that
he
off,
get to
Trump is
run
out,
again? I
and
don't-
Pence steps in as
Yes, you
president right
do.
away.
It was it was Israel. That's why I keep saying don't vote for anybody who has taken donations from AIPAC. They allowed it, they pushed it, they promoted it because he had a cause, and they felt like he was the only one that was bold enough to get their mission, push it to be successful. So it was the what's her name, Miriam Matter, what's her name, Middleton, Bibi Netanyahu. You know, all these people who are saying, oh, Israel, 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 Israel. They allowed it. Yeah, they beat the system. No one else that has one felony on their record will be able to do it. Yeah. That's why he's being blamed, Bibi Netanyahu them are being blamed for the war. They put him in position. He's indebted to them.
It all happens pretty quickly, without any need for a trial, just a simple majority vote from the cabinet. Timing is everything now,
Just
and
a little
that vote could
disappointed that
happen
they
at
took
any
my
moment,
monetization
possibly even tonight. Pence is currently
over
chatting with
AI.
Republican cabinet members, likely making the case that Trump should be removed. He's probably pointing to the chaotic scene in
Y'all
the
please hit the
courtroom
like button.
as proof that Trump isn't fit for the role anymore. I mean, watching the president throw a fit in front of millions and then being carried out by marshals is not a great look. Now, will Pence manage to convince them to vote his way? I can't say for sure, but it seems pretty likely. There's definitely a lot of anxiety among cabinet members right now. They're facing some serious pressure. If they stay loyal to Trump, they could end up in legal hot water for obstruction or witness tampering. If they knew about any wrongdoing and kept quiet, they could also face criminal charges. So you can see why they have a strong motive to distance themselves from Trump and support his removal. On another note, Trump being ejected from that courtroom really symbolizes that no one is above the law, not even a sitting president. It just goes to show that if you disregard a judge's orders, there will be consequences. The system is holding together, even when the president behaves like a tyrant. The marshals did what they had to do, and the judge upheld his authority. Everything worked as it should. But this situation is also unprecedented. We've never seen a sitting president physically removed from a courtroom before, or faced with arrest warrants, or had Congress actively voting to remove him from office while he's dealing with so much chaos. It's quite something to see a former president facing prosecution like this. This whole situation is completely unprecedented and definitely something that historians will be talking about for years to come. Now, looking at what's coming up in the immediate future, we've got an active arrest warrant out for Trump. Technically, he's a fugitive now. If he tries to step outside the White House, marshals could swoop in and take him into custody. It's like he's under house arrest without the formalities. He's stuck in the White House and taking a big risk. If they get enough votes for removal, he's out and Pence is in just like that. The transition would be instantaneous, shaking things up in the military and the intelligence agencies as the whole executive branch shifts gears. After that,
Why are they saying Pence? And this was 11 hours ago. Why is he saying Pence? It's kind of like before when they was talking about him being no, but it was kind of like they were intentionally, like before it was like I kept saying to myself, why are they saying former? And I don't think that we are supposed to, I don't know. I can make an assumption, but it's as if it is to avoid legal. Yeah. But they did this before when when he was going back and forth to court and they kept calling him former president. And the charges were that he was being appeals on was when he was not a president. So it's kind of as if with the censorship, they don't want you to have these ugly things to say or these legal things to say against the president. And I don't know why. I don't know why, but this is not old. They are in court voting against him right now. So I don't know why. I don't know if it's an automatic switch. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there were ugly things that were said about Obama, but he wasn't being brought up on legal charges because he said if he comes out of the White House, right? They didn't hit him with those charges before until after he wasn't a president. So it's still as if they're trying to control it. I don't. Yeah. Let's just listen. I got more stuff to talk about. Oh, humiliated. Oh Lord, is this that come at the end? Trump humiliated as no fraud claim collapse. That was an hour ago. Okay, let's finish this up. Let's listen, and then I need to go to some other stuff to get a full gist of what's
That we've
going
got the
on.
criminal trial looming over Trump, where he'll be prosecuted for obstruction and witness tampering. The evidence against him is pretty solid. Prosecutors have documents, testimonies, and proof. It's a clear case, and if he gets convicted, he could be staring down the barrel of life in prison.
Let's hear this one, y'all, to get a better understanding. Hold on. It's a
Every life
lot
still
going
runs on
on.
butane, the same fuel from 50 years ago.
Please support
That's
me.
exactly why they died on you.
Sarah Murray begins our coverage with the very latest on these new charges.
New charges. Come on. So this was 9 hours ago. Let's go.
Sarah Murray begins our coverage with the very latest on these new charges, Sarah, out of seemingly nowhere. What do we know?
Yeah, John, I mean, I think obviously the biggest deal in this is Donald Trump's already facing several charges. Now he's facing several more. One of them is another willful retention of documents charge. It's related to that very sensitive Iran document that we've talked about before that he showed to people in a meeting. We'll talk more about that in a second. But the other ones are related to what prosecutors say is this alleged...
Sarah, out of seemingly nowhere. What do we know?
Yeah, John, I mean, I think obviously the biggest deal in this is Donald Trump's already facing several charges. Now he's facing several more. One of them is another willful retention of documents charge. It's related to that very sensitive Iran document that we've talked about before that he showed to people in a meeting. We'll talk more about that in a second. But the other ones are related to what prosecutors say is this alleged scheme to try to delete surveillance video. Those are altering, destroying, mutilating, or
Deleting
concealing an object,
surveillance.
and corruptly altering, destroying, mutilating, or concealing a document, record, or other object. And as they lay it out in the indictment, essentially there's this new aide that we're hearing of, Carlos de Oliveira, who is now a defendant in this case, who Trump appears to tap as part of this scheme to try to delete the surveillance video.
The boss wants the server deleted. 5 words attributed to Carlos de Oliveira, the property manager at Mar-a-Lago, according to a federal indictment, spoken to another Trump employee after the government had already subpoenaed surveillance footage from the storage room where classified documents were being kept. Let that sequence sink in. The government had already been to Mar-a-Lago. They had already identified the storage room. They had already subpoenaed the Trump Organization for the surveillance video. They had already told Trump's lawyers in writing that the footage was evidence in a federal investigation. And then, according to prosecutors, someone asked how many days the server kept footage, got the answer, 45 days, and then went back with a message, the boss wants it deleted. This wasn't the original story. The original classified documents indictment in June 2023 was already significant, 37 counts, including willful retention of national defense information. But the superseding indictment in July 2023 added 3 new defendants and 3 new counts. And it added something the original indictment didn't have, a documented scheme to obstruct a federal investigation by destroying evidence after the subpoena had already been served. Obstruction after a subpoena is not aggressive legal strategy. It's a separate crime. And according to this indictment, it was carried out in a conversation that asked a subordinate to delete footage to protect a former president. Here's what the full picture looks like and why the superseding indictment was in some ways more damaging than the first one.
Surveillance videos. So after that subpoena, it's late June 2022, and De Oliveira is talking to another Trump employee about the surveillance footage. And according to the indictment, he asked this other Trump employee how many days this server retains the footage. The employee says it's 45 days. De Oliveira then goes to the Trump employee and says, you know, the boss wants the server deleted, and he asks, what are we going to do? So that's really the heart of the scheme to try to delete this surveillance footage that is new in this indictment. But let's go back to that additional willful retention of documents charge, because this is a document we've talked a lot about. Donald Trump talked about it in a meeting he had in July of 2021 at Bedminster with folks who are writing a book about Mark Meadows. Take a listen to how Donald Trump talked about that document at the time.
Word documents. That's it. I format them, upload them to Amazon, and collect royalties every month. No webs.
This was the Defense Department and him.
I need y'all to get the lights up. We're finna listen to this this leaked information. Donald Trump telling his aide at that time to obstruct justice. Get the lights up. Double tap. Hit those three dots at the top. Tap those 3 dots. Yeah. And hit the likes, share, subscribe. Please. Only one person has hit the like button. 3 people. Oh, I had some good dinner. Let me show y'all my dinner since y'all playing with. I need to show y'all what it really looked like instead of a cute picture. Oh, this is what I was eating. Woo! Won't it do it? Won't it do it? Oh, Lord. Won't it do it? I ate good, Miss Tom. Get the lights up. Get the lights up. Get the lights up. Good and sleeping. Now, should I have had that fried? No, I should not. Probably shouldn't have had them shrimps blackened either. Baby, but Lord in heaven knows it was good. And I ate a half of that Japanese sweet potato. That purple one. Hey, Dorothy. Yeah, no, y'all, I'm going to tell y'all now. I'm going to be as honest could be. If this is any illustration of how this is going to be now that I've gotten demonetized, I probably am not going to come but once a day, maybe about an hour or so. Because this ain't going to work. Let's listen to this video. This recording. Let's go.
At the time.
This was the Defense Department and him. We looked at something. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. Pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know.
It wins your case.
Except it is like highly confidential.
But before
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential.
But before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, subscribe to Daily News Minutes, leave a like, and comment below what you think about this story.
Thank you, Margaret.
Who Carlos de Oliveira is, because most coverage of the classified documents case.
Did y'all hear him saying, but it's
Trump's
confidential?
personal valet and the co-defendant named in the original indictment. De Oliveira is different, and his role reveals a specific dimension of how the obstruction allegedly worked. De Oliveira was the director of facilities management at Mar-a-Lago, not a political aide, not a lawyer, not a communication staffer, a property manager, the person responsible for the physical operations of the club, plumbing, electrical, maintenance, security systems, including the surveillance camera system. According to the superseding indictment, De Oliveira was brought into the scheme because he had access to the servers that stored the surveillance footage. The indictment describes him asking a Trump employee, identified only as Trump Employee 4 in the document, how many days the system retained video. Employee 4 said 45 days. De Oliveira then relayed the message. The boss wanted the server deleted and asked what they were going to do about it. Employee 4 apparently refused. The footage was not deleted. The government obtained the footage and the footage itself, showing boxes being moved around the storage area during the period when the government was asking for documents, became part of the evidentiary basis for the obstruction counts in the original indictment. So the surveillance footage that De Oliveira allegedly tried to help delete is the same footage that helped prove
This is
the
what's
obstruction
under his
charges.
first
The
administration.
attempted cover-up failed. The evidence
Somebody
of the
got
cover-up
disbarred
survived, and
today.
then the cover-up itself became an additional set of charges. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. De Oliveira allegedly
Yeah,
asked...
we don't know why the other guy was doing the same thing. It almost kind of feels like censorship. Yeah, we just listened to one and everything that's talking about, because this is the first administration. And so it would have been during Pence terms. So it may be automatically switching it. I'm not sure. It could be legal reasons, because that was who his vice president was at that time. I don't know, but this is the second one. Total different person. It did the same thing. You know, a lot, like I said, even being demonetized, it appears as if there a lot of censorship is going forward. Are you giving fake news? You are giving fake news. What do you mean, Miss Tom? Who is giving fake news? I'm waiting, Miss Tom. He's not Fox. He's a independent. Yeah, he's not Fox. Now he used some of their information, but he's not Fox. Are you playing with me? I'm trying to process this. Are you playing with me, Miss Tom? Are you telling me I'm giving you fake news? Yeah, but you need to put Trump wants us to have fake news, because the way you put it, it made it appear as if you're telling me and everybody who's listening that I'm giving you fake news.
Set of charges. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. De Oliveira allegedly asked how many days the surveillance server kept footage, then relayed a message that the boss wanted it deleted. The footage was not
Howard,
deleted.
I think
It became
that
evidence.
most people are scared. I mean, let's be real. As long as we've been covering this, there are times, even with Jack Smith, had him red-handed, and he appealed it, and then the process stalled, and then Cannon, is that her name? The court lady threw it out. Said that he didn't, it wasn't his jurisdiction, or he didn't have, he was outside his authority, or something wasn't done, just threw it out. So I don't know. He should have been on house. They did say that if he come outside his house, at the White House, that he could be detained because there's an active warrant for him. Now that he said that, I will research to see if there's an active warrant for him. But his properties in New York and Mar-a-Lago was supposed to have already been seized. They had, at one point, the yellow tape around Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, so all I know is some things are moving and shifting, and they don't want the truth out. Now, that I do know. And a lot of people got demonetized today since the 1st of, is this what is this, April? Yeah. That covers him. So let's just be mindful of it. I don't have all the details. I'm trying to collect them now. Please hit the 3 dots at the top right. Let's go.
Then the attempted deletion became its own set of charges. What does it tell you about a cover-up that creates more evidence than it destroys?
As you can kind of see around the restaurant, tons of art. We relate that to the food.
Let me explain the Bedminster tape specifically, because Trump's own words, recorded on audio in July 2021, were at the center of a count that the superseding indictment added, and the specific thing he said on that tape made his subsequent denials impossible to maintain. In July 2021, Trump held a meeting at his Bedminster, New Jersey club with 2 writers working on a biography of his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and with several members of his political staff. The meeting was recorded. During the meeting, Trump discussed a document described in the indictment as a classified plan related to a potential military operation against Iran prepared by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Trump referred to it as something that proved his case against General Mark Milley, who he was blaming for the Afghanistan withdrawal. Here's what Trump said on tape. You heard part of it in the clip. This was the Defense Department and him. This was him. All sorts of stuff.
I got it,
Pages
Miss
long.
Tom.
Wait
Thank
a minute.
you.
Let's see here. I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know, except it is highly confidential. Except it is highly confidential. Those 4 words were the legal problem. Trump was describing a document he acknowledged was highly confidential. He was waving it around in a meeting with people who had no security clearances. The writers working on the Meadows biography were not government officials. They had no need to know. They had no clearances. The document had not been declassified. The superseding indictment added a count of willful retention
That's how
of
they gonna get
national
him.
defense information specifically for this document.
He can't say he
for
didn't
retaining
know.
a classified military document at Bedminster and showing it to people without clearances. After the tape became public, Trump said he had declassified everything mentally. He said the document wasn't really
Mentally.
classified. He said he was just showing the writer's papers, not the actual document.
You remember somebody said that if he says it enough, then it becomes true in his mind. If he keeps saying the lie, I declassified it. It's declassified information. It's declassified. I declassified it. I have the right to declassify. That he is speaking that into existence. So it's declassified. I declassified it. Yeah, that's what he was saying at first. It was declassified. Now
Clearances. The document had not been declassified. The superseding indictment added a count of willful retention, describing a document he acknowledged was highly confidential. He was waving it around in a meeting with people who had no security clearances. The writers working on the Meadows biography were not government officials. They had no need to know. They had no clearances. The document had not been declassified. The superseding indictment added a count of willful retention of national defense information specifically for this document, for retaining a classified military document at Bedminster and showing it to people without clearances. After the tape became public, Trump said he had declassified everything mentally. He said the document wasn't really classified. He said he was just showing the writer's papers, not the actual document. The tape made each of those defenses difficult. He's on the recording saying, "It is highly confidential."
Oh, wow.
This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel,
It's
leave a
confidential.
like, and
So
comment
which
below.
one is it? Is it
Trump said on
confidential?
tape that a document totally wins my case, except it is highly confidential. He showed it to people with no security clearances. He later said he had declassified it mentally. Can you mentally declassify a document you're describing as highly confidential while you're showing it? Let me explain the mental declassification defense, and because Trump made it publicly and his lawyers raised it in court filings. And it's worth understanding why the legal and factual record makes it almost impossible to sustain. Trump's claim, as president, he had the authority to declassify any document at any time, including by simply deciding mentally that it was declassified, without going through the formal process. When he took documents to Mar-a-Lago after leaving office, they were already declassified, in his mind, and therefore not subject to the retention restrictions that apply to classified national defense information. Here's the problem with that argument, stated as precisely as possible. First, there is no legal authority for mental declassification. The executive order governing classified information, Executive Order 13526, which has been in effect since 2009, requires that declassification be documented. It requires notification to originating agencies. It requires marking changes on the physical documents. None of that happened. Second, even if mental declassification were legally valid, it would require Trump to have had the intent to declassify before leaving office. The Bedminster tape, recorded in July 2021, 6 months after he left office, shows Trump describing the document as highly confidential. If he had mentally declassified it before January 20th, 2021, why was he still calling it highly confidential in July 2021?
That's
Third,
the judge.
the charges are under 18 U.S.C.
Trump
793,
ally
which
allegedly
covers
told
willful
staff to
retention
delete
of national
surveillance after
defense
the Department
information.
of
The
Justice
statute
subpoena.
doesn't require that the information be formally classified, only that it relate to national defense and that the person retaining it knew they were not authorized to keep it. A military plan for a potential operation against Iran is, by its nature, national defense information. Whether it was formally classified is a separate question from whether Trump was authorized to keep it at Mar-a-Lago and show it to biography writers. The mental declassification defense was raised. No court ever evaluated it on the merits because the case was dismissed by canon before trial. But the legal scholars and former national security officials who analyzed it publicly found it without basis in law or precedent. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. Trump claimed mental declassification. The governing executive order requires documented, notified, marked declassification. The tape has him calling the document highly confidential 6 months after leaving office. Can you mentally declassify something you're still describing as classified? Let me explain the timeline of the surveillance footage obstruction, because the specific sequence of events is what makes the boss wants the server deleted message so legally significant. May 2022, the National Archives tells DOJ that Trump may have taken classified documents to Mar-a-Lago. DOJ opens a criminal investigation. May 11th, 2022,
Jack
a federal
Smith is
grand
not
jury
playing with
subpoena
Trump.
is served on Trump's lawyers, demanding all documents with classification markings. June 2nd, 2022, DOJ lawyers and FBI agents visit Mar-a-Lago to collect documents. They are shown a storage room in the basement. They notice surveillance cameras outside the room. They take the subpoenaed documents, but believe more remain.
All the time.
June 24th, 2022, the grand jury issues a subpoena to the Trump Organization for all surveillance footage from Mar-a-Lago covering the area around the storage room. Late June
What you gonna
2022,
download?
according to the indictment, De Oliveira asks Employee 4 how many days the server retains footage. Employee 4 says 45 days. De Oliveira relays the message, the boss wants the server deleted. The government already had a live subpoena for that footage when this conversation allegedly happened. Deleting the footage after a subpoena has been served is not just destruction of evidence. It is obstruction of justice, a separate federal crime with serious penalties. The footage was not deleted. Employee 4 apparently did not carry out the request. The government collected the footage. The footage showed boxes being moved around the storage area during the period when Trump's lawyers were telling the government that all responsive documents had been returned. That footage, the footage that was allegedly the target of a deletion scheme, is what allowed prosecutors to show that documents were being moved while the government was asking for them. The obstruction scheme, if true, failed, and its failure produced the most direct evidence of the original obstruction. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. The government subpoenaed the surveillance footage in late June 2022. According to the indictment, De Oliveira asked to have it deleted days later. The footage survived. It showed boxes being moved during the collection period. The attempted cover-up became evidence of the crime it was trying to cover. Is that poetic justice, or just how obstruction cases usually work? Let me explain Walt Nauda's role, because he was the original co-defendant, and his alleged conduct connects directly to De Oliveira's. Nauda was Trump's personal valet and body man, someone who traveled with Trump, managed his personal logistics, and had direct daily access to him. According to the original indictment, Nauda was the person who physically moved boxes of documents around Mar-a-Lago, moving them out of the storage room, moving them to other locations, moving them back, during the period when the government was pressing Trump's lawyers to produce all remaining classified documents. The indictment alleges Nauda did this at Trump's direction. The surveillance footage captured some of these movements. Trump's lawyers during the same period represented to the government that all responsive documents had been returned, representations that the footage called into question. Nauda was charged with 6 counts: conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and making false statements. He pleaded not guilty. His trial was scheduled alongside Trump's.
So this device is both a DVD player and a CD burner, which already makes it super useful. You can watch.
Together, Nauta and De Oliveira allegedly formed a physical and logistical side of the obstruction scheme.
Oh, okay.
Nauta moving the boxes, De Oliveira attempting to delete the footage of the movements. The Iran document count added a third layer. Trump himself showing classified material to unauthorized persons and later claiming it had been declassified. 3 defendants, 3 distinct alleged roles, 1 storage room in a Palm Beach club, and a surveillance camera that nobody managed to turn off. The case against all 3 was
Y'all remember
dismissed
Mar-a-Lago
by
is
Cannon
not
in
his
July
residence.
2024. Not,
You know, although they stay there occasionally, Mar-a-Lago is the club, you know, for tax write-off purposes. Y'all, tax, during tax time last year, he only paid $400 and something in taxes due to all of his write-offs. Mar-a-Lago is a club, and that's the reason why it's not a homestead. And in seizure, I'm sure he didn't know that. During seizure time, the club can be seized. I know he had a hissy fit, baby. When they, when the people came taping off his club, yeah, that's a club. Mar-a-Lago is a club, and I wonder is that why he ain't been going home? You know, for the last few weekends, he been at the White House, and that's when he was talking about he need a hospital there. He probably may be supposed to be on house arrest. Now that I'm thinking about it, y'all. You know, he getting food delivered. And y'all do know that lady is a crisis actor. She's went on a witness stand for something else. She's a crisis actor. I got that picture up in here too somewhere. That lady that looked like the driving granny, whatever they call her, who delivered that alleged that, burger. I'm just gonna say burger because they say it has a certain amount of human, grinded up into there. This lady right here, she's a crisis. Oh man, you can't see her. Oh man, it didn't. I'll show y'all later. But she is a crisis actor. She's been on the witness stand on behalf of Trump before, like a protester. Yeah, they be playing in our face. That's why that Tyler Robinson and that old man, like it was me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of him, the man that was standing, it was him. At Charlie Kirk's assassination, why the real person could get away. Yeah, he a crisis actor too. I had read a long time ago. So was Tyler Robinson. He was on the scene of an accident. So yeah, it's a lot of frackle bull going on. Let's go.
because the
Hey,
evidence was weak,
Inez,
because Cannon found
Samantha.
Smith's appointment unconstitutional. The evidence, the tapes, the footage, the box movements, the Bedminster recording remains in the record. It has never been tested at scheme. Nauta moving the boxes, De Oliveira attempting to delete the footage of the movements. The Iran document count added a third layer. Trump himself showing classified material to unauthorized persons and later claiming it had been declassified. 3 defendants, 3 distinct alleged roles, 1 storage room in a Palm Beach club, and a surveillance camera that nobody managed to turn off. The case against all 3 was dismissed by Cannon in July 2024, not because the evidence was weak, because Cannon found Smith's appointment unconstitutional. The evidence, the tapes, the footage, the box movements, the Bedminster recording remains in the record. It has never been tested at trial. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. Nauta allegedly moved the boxes, De Oliveira allegedly tried to delete the footage of the movements. Trump allegedly showed classified material at Bedminster. The case was dismissed before trial. The evidence exists. A jury never saw it. Does that mean there was no case, or that the case was never decided? Let me explain what the Iran document was specifically, and why its subject matter made the Bedminster tape especially significant. The document Trump waved around in the Bedminster meeting was, according to the indictment, a classified assessment prepared by the Joint Chiefs of Staff about a potential military operation against Iran. The indictment describes it as a plan that included information about U.S. military capabilities, potential targets, and operational timelines. This is not a bureaucratic memo. This is not a routine intelligence briefing. This is military planning information for a potential war, the kind of document that, if it reached the wrong hands, could compromise operational security, expose intelligence sources, and potentially cost lives if an operation were ever executed. Trump showed it to biography writers, not to security officials,
Hey, John.
not to intelligence briefers, to writers working on a book about Mark Meadows at a private club in New Jersey in a meeting with no security protocols.
You mean
And
for
then he said on tape,
his current
"This
crimes?
totally wins my case, except it is highly confidential." His case, the argument he was making to the Meadows biography writers, was that General Milley had been pushing for military action against Iran without Trump's authorization. The document, he claimed, proved that Milley wanted to attack Iran and Trump didn't. That was the political point he was trying to make. He was making that political point with a classified military operations document to people with no clearances, in a building with no skiff, with a recording device running. The subsequent claim that he had mentally declassified it is contradicted by his own words in that recording. Highly confidential is what he called it. Not, "This is now declassified." Not, "I'm allowed to show you this." Highly confidential, followed immediately by showing it anyway. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. The document Trump showed at Bedminster was a military plan for a potential operation against Iran. He called it highly confidential while showing it to biography writers. He later said he'd mentally
So
declassified
that means that
it.
since this
If
was
you
his
mentally
first term,
declassify-
he was planning on doing what he's doing now on his second term that he did not get a chance to infiltrate, which is why he was so angry and did the insurrection, right? Because he had plans that he could not fulfill, and they said, go and fight, your, okay? So now he has come in and he's infiltrating it. So when I think about why before, when he was in office, his first term, why was Iran can't have a nuclear, missiles? Because his fight and his topic about his storyline about, they can't have a nuclear weapon. You wasn't saying that before. And you had issues with Iran, but you wasn't saying they can't have a nuclear weapon. See, when I keep saying they have a plot, they have a plan, and they want to know that Iran is not going to blow them or blow us off the face of the map. Because if they've always had the capability of creating a nuclear weapon, then it should have been an issue when he was in office before, just like it's a major issue now, right? I mean, right? What's the difference? Oh, it was coming. It was coming, but he just didn't have a chance to infiltrate it, to shut it down or to start it. Does that make sense? Yeah, so now he's back in office. Now you Nobel Peace and stop the war and don't push that button don't push. No. He came in like it was between them two. And just don't sit, don't. He didn't get that Nobel Peace Prize. And he like, yeah, now I'm in it. I pushed it. It just don't make sense. Why was it not important then? It was supposed to be his second term. He just didn't get that opportunity. Yeah, they got a plot and a plan. And we gonna hope that God just knocked that plan down. It ain't right. Let's go.
Something? Do you keep calling it highly confidential?
Y'all hit the like button.
And here's the final frame. 2 documents, 2 schemes, 1 surveillance camera, nobody managed to erase.
You saw my dinner.
The original indictment, June 2020.
Y'all hit the like button. You need to see it again. Paul Ward. Baby. Let me show you when I tried to make it cute. Nah, that ain't it. It's this one. That's that catfish strips, blackened Cajun shrimp with grits. So I got fish and grits, shrimp and grits. And I added my Japanese purple yam for fiber. Half of it. Don't they look good? Yeah, it's because I ain't want Miss Tom asking, have I ate? And I had got fallen into a slump because they demonetized me today. So I said, well, let me give me something real good to eat then to lift my spirits. And this is what I came up with. Woo! Let's go.
37 counts, was about retaining classified documents and lying to the government about how many there were. The superseding indictment,
let me back it
July
up so
2023,
can
added...
And yes, I'm fat full. Let's go.
This is now declassified, not, I'm allowed to show you this. Highly confidential, followed immediately by showing it anyway. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. The document Trump showed at Bedminster was a military plan for a potential operation.
Yeah,
against Iran.
you know, they want to censor it.
Confidential
and
while
then,
showing
and then
it to
they want
biography
people
writers.
take
He
your
later
money
said
so
he
you won't
mentally
talk about it.
declassified it. If you mentally declassify something, do you keep calling it highly confidential? And here's the final frame. 2 documents, 2 schemes, 1 surveillance camera, nobody managed to erase. The original indictment, June 2023, 37 counts, was about retaining classified documents and lying to the government about how many there were. The superseding indictment, July 2023, added de Oliveira.
Remember, Melania came out. We've seen Ivanka come out. We got the him telling his guy on recording. Yeah, we gotta stay woke, y'all. Something strange is going on. Let's go.
Added the server deletion scheme and added the Iran document as a standalone count. Together they describe a pattern. Take the documents, move the documents, lie about the documents, try to delete the footage of the documents being moved, show one of the most sensitive documents to people who have no clearance while recording yourself calling it highly confidential. And then when all of that is being prosecuted, argue that the prosecutor wasn't legally appointed. That's where the case ended, not with a verdict, with a dismissal. Cannon's Appointments Clause ruling, issued July 2024, Smith's appeal filed August 2024. Trump's election, November 2024. Smith's withdrawal, November 2024. The 11th Circuit's mootness ruling, December 2024. The evidence is preserved. The tape of Trump saying highly confidential is in the record. The footage that wasn't deleted, the footage that allegedly someone tried to delete, is in the record. De Oliveira's conversation about the server retention schedule is documented in the indictment. None of it was tested at trial. None of it was heard by a jury. The case was dismissed on a legal theory that the 11th Circuit was widely expected to reject, and then made moot before the rejection could come. The boss wanted the server deleted. The server wasn't deleted. The boss is president. That's where this case ended, not with the evidence, with the timing. This is Daily News Minutes. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below. Trump called the Iran document highly confidential while showing it to people with no clearances. The surveillance footage that was allegedly targeted for deletion survived and became evidence. The case was dismissed before trial. Trump won the election. The evidence exists. The jury never saw it. What does justice look like when the timing runs out before the verdict?
Hold on. I'm listening to something in my ear. Oh, Daily News. Schumer. Y'all please hit the like button. Let me see, what's this? I'm trying to see what I already got.
We're now hearing from New York Attorney General Letitia James for the first.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, I think. Hold on, y'all. That's the new judge he picked. That's her. That's that one. I think that. Hold on, y'all. I be having some foreign. Let's go.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have major disbarment news about one of Donald Trump's top attorneys. Can you explain that news coming out of court?
Yeah, Brian. John Eastman, one of Donald Trump's dirty lawyers, was just disbarred permanently and finally by the Supreme Court of California. This has been kicking around for a while. First, there was a trial court finding that he should be disbarred, then a court of appeals finding in California, and now it is final. It is definitive. John Eastman is disbarred. Our viewers might remember he was one of the lawyers who cooked up this corrupt scheme to try to overturn the results of the 2020 election that Donald Trump lost by saying, well, you know, Mike Pence can just not count the votes and he can throw it back to the states and each state will get one vote. And because there are more red states than blue states, Donald Trump wins an election he lost. Well, that legal dog wouldn't hunt because, you know, it was contrary to federal law, the Electoral Count Act. And it was just a harebrained scheme from the start. Our viewers might also remember that John Eastman was one of those guys who stood up at the podium on the ellipse at the pre-insurrection pep rally. Remember when Rudy Giuliani told everybody, let's go have trial by combat? And Donald Trump told everybody, let's, go to the Capitol, fight like hell or you won't have a country anymore. Now go stop the certification, stop the steal. Well, John Eastman filled the heads of the folks who were attending that pep rally with lie after lie after lie after lie about the election being
And got them
stolen,
Baba
their
says,
votes being rigged, their
we
favorite
finna
president
in
being taken
flames.
from them. And I have to say, Brian, this one was probably not all that hard for the California courts to resolve, because what people may not remember about John Eastman and his involvement in this whole ugly affair trying to steal a presidential election for Donald Trump, back during the January 6th public hearings, this is the evidence that was developed and that was shared with the American people. John Eastman acknowledged that the plot to block the certification of Joe Biden's election victory, a plot he came up with, wasn't legal. But he ultimately aggressively pushed it anyway. So even he acknowledged that what he was proposing, what he was urging Mike Pence to do, was not legal, but he said, screw it, let's do it anyway. I don't think it was that difficult for the California courts to say, we will not allow this person to hold a license to practice law from the state of California, and he is now disbarred.
Now, you had mentioned that this is final, but in fact, Eastman announced that he plans to ask the U.S. Supreme Court. So this decision was from the California Supreme Court. He plans to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to reverse the California court's decision, and he issued the following
Please
statement.
hit the like button.
The California Supreme Court has allowed to stand a state bar court recommendation that we contend departs from the longstanding U.S. Supreme Court precedent protecting First Amendment rights, especially in the attorney discipline context. We disagree with that outcome and believe it raises pivotal constitutional concerns regarding the limits of state regulation on attorney speech. We will seek review in the U.S. Supreme Court to repudiate this threat to the rule of law and our nation's adversarial system of justice. So, how effective do you think John Eastman will be with his appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court?
Let me say it again, Brian. This disbarment is final. Why do I say that? Because John Eastman wasn't disbarred for his speech. They didn't say, oh, you told a bunch of lies. Therefore, what he was disbarred for was violating the law, acknowledging that he was violating the law, and his goal in violating the law was to try to overturn the results of a presidential election against the express will of the American voters. The fact that some speech was also sprinkled in there, this is not, and I say this at my own peril, because we all know that we have a 6-justice majority on the United States Supreme Court that, is not entirely legitimate. They seem to be more political than legal. At times, this is not the kind of thing. A state bar investigation culminating in a sanction for a lawyer who's barred in that state, not the kind of thing the Supreme Court is going to take up. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to place my whole $1 maximum bet on this being a final disbarment.
Glenn, do you think that this is going to have any impact on the existing slate of lawyers who are probably working on the exact same thing on Trump's behalf while watching his former slate of attorneys try to wrestle with different disbarments all across the country?
I'm going to go with a hard no. Why do I say that? Well, let's look at the current membership of the Donald Trump Disbarred Lawyers Club. Rudy Giuliani, disbarred twice over, D.C. and New York. Now John Eastman, Kenneth Chesbrough, Jeffrey Clark, and yet what do we still see? We see Pam Bondi, who did Donald Trump's dirty bidding until...
Hold up, breaking. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons has submitted his resignation letter to DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullins, stating He will step down on May the 31st to spend more time with his family. The ICE director. Everybody don't want to go to jail.
He threw her under the bus. Lindsay Halligan, we saw violating the law and the Constitution, trying to indict the innocent. We've got Todd Blanche, who has picked up where Pam Bondi has left off. Look, all these people continue to act law, so they will richly deserve whatever sanction from their states they get. Todd
Y'all
Blanche
please hit the
and
like
others
button.
are bar referrals, investigations, findings of unethical conduct, and possible disbarment. But you know what? They're going into it with their eyes open, and so they will richly deserve whatever sanction from their states they get.
You know, there is a part of me that is certainly grateful that we're seeing all of these disbarments, that we're watching these state bar councils uphold their end of the deal, of the law, of making sure that the power that they bestow onto these people isn't abused in the way that these Trump administration officials are abusing it or have been abusing it. But there's also a part of me that worries that it's not enough, that these people will be perfectly content to relinquish their bar licenses because at the end of the day, you know, Trump or MAGA world will still hire these people regardless of whether or not they're disbarred. And that's kind of just, you know, if they have to be disbarred, so be it. The more important thing for Trump is that he has shown that he has some lackeys and sycophants who are willing to sacrifice everything on behalf of him. And so once they do that, you know, there is always a second life as far as they're concerned, working, you know, in this illicit, you know, Trumpian universe where you don't need to have a law license. You don't need to follow the law. Where your felony convictions are actually a point of pride, and on and on.
Yeah, Brian, I get that. You know, it seems like a lot of these people kind of live in a post-shame world or a post-shame existence. But listen, you pour a lot of time and effort and energy and, you know, blood and sweat and tears into obtaining your license to practice law. I mean, I went through it, 4 years undergrad, 3 years of law school, sat for the bar exam.
What do you mean? You want me to explain why I was demonetized? It made mention of using AI, censorship. You talking about Parwar? I mean, maybe he wasn't here before. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't here. It's to me, it's censorship. I'm not surprised with everything that's coming out today. But you know, it had something about using non-human. So when I think about what have I used recently that I haven't been using before, it's the Lego. If you let me, just in the short amount of time, I would assume it is the Legos that was providing a lot of information and knocking down a lot of the lies. It was telling us what was really going on. And they were so truthful until that is what I'm saying. I don't know for sure, but it definitely had something about using AI, and it didn't say, I can't think of the term they use. And so, and that went into effect, it said on March the 31st. So it just went into effect, and then they started implementing it. I will get it back, but if it's the Legos, then you know I will go in and take that out. But I'm gonna try to appeal it. But if it's about this censorship, then they're doing it on purpose so that we won't tell the truth. They don't want us to know the truth. So that's why You got to get the likes up. You have to support me. I was just getting the good gems, and then this happened. So it's like, you trying to make me shut up because you have just yanked the monetization, the gems, and everything. So if you, for the support, it would have to go through my Cash App. Yeah. So it's to make you shut up, you know. Ain't it the money that people are lured to in their minds? Everyone they've lured to turn their back on the truth, to turn their back on their country, is by way of money. And if you yank the money, people gonna shut up. So shut up. Yeah, but no, I'm not gonna shut up. I'm still gonna tell the truth. I'm still gonna provide it for my tea sippers. We're just gonna have to figure out a way to support Auntie Fee to keep me motivated to keep going. It was really hard for me to come on out this evening, but I have to shake that off, right? I gotta shake that off. What's that old song? I should not be moved. You're not gonna make me shut up. You're not gonna make me just let people lie and mislead people and go back to, oh, that don't have nothing to do with me. Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. Even if you demonetize me, I am still going to provide my tea sippers with the truth. Okay, that's what that is, Powwow.
Sweated out the results until I learned I'd passed the bar exam. You put a lot into it, and I think most attorneys sort of take pride in their accomplishments. And the fact that John Eastman will now be walking around with a big D on his forehead for disbarred.
Okay, so he's been disbarred.
Yes,
Let's
maybe
move
he
on.
can sign on to some,
And Pam Bondi, all of them. God gave you a voice, and we hear you. Bless you, precious. Bless you. He'll make a way. What else I got? Hold on. Ooh, I'm on that arm. Ooh. Department investigating Swalwell, okay? China, Hamas, veto. Okay, let me go to what else I got. Hold on. Y'all, please hit the like button. Let's hear what. Oh, Bubba. Okay, that's not the. Let's hear this one.
World. But if the numbers don't work, you know, in all my years in public life, as a governor, as a president, and as a private citizen watching this great country try to figure itself out, I've learned that there are certain lines that government should think very carefully before crossing. And one of those lines is the one between an American citizen and their own bank account. Now look, I'm not here to shout at anybody.
Okay.
That's never been my style, and it's not going to start today.
Let's go.
But I want to talk to you about something that happened just 2 days ago, on April the 14th, 2026, that I believe every single American, regardless of party, ought to be paying attention to. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent sat down at a dinner hosted by Semaphore at the Library of Congress, a beautiful setting, by the way. And he confirmed on the record that the Trump administration is drafting an executive order that would require banks to collect citizenship documentation from their customers. Not just new customers, existing ones too. Every single person with a bank account in the United States of America could be asked to prove they're a citizen or risk losing access to their own money. Now, Secretary Bessent said he didn't think this was unreasonable. He compared it to how the United Kingdom tracks who lives in apartments. And I understand the impulse. Nobody wants foreign terrorist organizations laundering money through our banking system. I get that. But here's what I want you to sit with for a moment. The people most likely to be hurt by this proposal aren't terrorists. They aren't people here illegally. They are ordinary, law-abiding American citizens, many of them elderly, many of them rural, many of them low income, who simply don't have a passport or a birth certificate sitting in a drawer somewhere. And we'll come back to that in a moment, because the numbers are going to surprise you. Let me give you the full picture, because context matters. It always does. This idea didn't come out of nowhere. Back in February of this year, reports first surfaced that the Trump administration was considering an executive action to force banks to verify the citizenship of their customers. The banking industry pushed back hard. Treasury staff reportedly raised concerns internally. In March, the administration appeared to shelve the proposal after Wall Street blowback. The Washington Post reported it was delayed. The Daily Beast said it was forced off the table. But on April 14th, Scott Bessent brought it back. He confirmed the order is in process. His exact words were, "Why don't we have information on who's in our banking system?"
What?
And he added that undocumented immigrants don't have a right to be in the banking system.
But they...
And that if regulators tell banks to comply, it's their job. Now let me tell you something from my experience sitting in that Oval Office. When a cabinet-level official goes on the record confirming a policy direction, that's not idle talk. That's a signal. That tells every regulator, every bank executive, every compliance officer in America to start preparing. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because what Secretary Bessent is describing isn't a small adjustment to existing rules. Under current law, banks already follow something called the Customer Identification Program. They verify identity.
Are y'all listening to this? Please hit the like button. Y'all, now I'm an hour and 47 minutes in. I shouldn't have to be asking y'all to double tap those the face of your phone, or hit those three dots at the top right and hit the thumbs up. Come on now. Hit the like button. They're trying to tap off. Oh my God. Until you do right by the United States, everything this man do need to crumble. And I mean that, Lord. I ain't wish no ill harm, but he just really think that he has all power. And we know that's not true. We know that's not true. It does not make any sense for this man to be this greedy, hateful and honoring, conniving and manipulative. Fix it, Lord, please. In the name of Jesus. You know, when I look up, I saw, I need to back that up a little bit, y'all. Let's go.
Raised concerns internally. In March, the administration appeared to shelve the proposal after Wall Street blowback. The Washington Post reported it was delayed. The Daily Beast said it was forced off the table. But on April 14th, Scott Bessent brought it back. He confirmed the order is in process. His exact words were, "Why don't we have information on who's in our banking system?" And he added that undocumented immigrants don't have a right to be in the banking system, and that if regulators tell banks to comply, it's their job. Now let me tell you something from my experience sitting in that Oval Office. When a cabinet-level official goes on the record confirming a policy direction, that's not idle talk. That's a signal. That tells every regulator, every bank executive, every compliance officer in America to start preparing. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because what Secretary Bessent is describing isn't a small adjustment to existing rules. Under current law, banks already follow something called the Customer Identification Program. They verify identity, they check government watch lists, they comply with anti-money laundering rules. What this new order would do is add an entirely new category, citizenship verification. Banks would become, in effect, immigration enforcement agents. That is a fundamental change in the relationship between the financial system and the American public. And it deserves far more scrutiny than a dinner comment at the Library of Congress.
Unbelievable but true. This Indian tea brand is handing out free double-walled infuser mugs and spoons to steep loose leaf teas. I can't start my day without a proper cup of tea.
Now, I've always believed that good policy starts with good data. You can have all the intentions in the world, but if the numbers don't work, the policy doesn't work. So let's look at what we actually know. The Brennan Center for Justice estimates that more than 21 million voting eligible American citizens do not have ready access to documentary proof of citizenship. That's not 21 million undocumented immigrants. That's 21 million Americans, your neighbors, your parents, your grandparents, who couldn't produce a passport, a birth certificate, or naturalization papers tomorrow if their bank demanded it. Here's another number. There are roughly 183 million active U.S. passports in circulation against a population of over 340 million. That means nearly half of all Americans don't have a passport. And here's the thing that ought to make every political strategist in Washington sit up straight. Real ID credentials would not qualify under this proposal because they don't establish citizenship status.
You can help through by way of Cash App.
So even people who went through the trouble
I think Janet
of getting a real
or
ID
Mrs. Tom has
would
posted
still
it
be
for
out
me.
of luck. And 1 in 10 Americans doesn't have a birth certificate handy. Nearly 4 million report theirs as lost, stolen, or destroyed. Now, the American Action Forum, and this is a center-right think tank, not some liberal advocacy group, estimates that verifying citizenship for just new bank accounts would add between 33 and 73 million hours of paperwork and cost banks between $2.6 and $5.6 billion. And if you extend that to existing accounts, which this order proposes,
Thank you, Paul.
you're looking at an additional 85 million hours minimum and another 6.5 billion in costs. Those aren't my numbers. Those are the numbers from people who generally support less regulation, not more. Let me tell you something about governing. When I was in the White House, we didn't always get it right. Nobody does. But we had a process. Before we announced the major financial regulation, we talked to the banks. We talked to the Fed. We talked to consumer advocates. We stress tested our ideas. We asked the hard question, who gets hurt? What troubles me about this proposal is that it appears to have skipped all of those steps. The banking industry wasn't consulted in a meaningful way.
See, they don't want to say Vance because they don't want it to affect the midterm elections. They don't want it to affect 2028. Vance couldn't get a deal. He couldn't, replace Charlie Kirk at turning a point. So it almost appears as if they're replacing Vance with Pence. Because the charges that he is up against now, Pence was his vice president. But it's as if they are intentionally swapping them out. That's what it appears. Other than today, now let's just keep it real. A lot of things transpired today. The censorship has been going on, but this demonetization of several people, all of them, I'm not going to say all of them, some of them doing content on the same thing. It just, the switching from Vance to Pence, trust me, it has a purpose. But it's so new right now, I haven't been able to pinpoint it. But that's what it feels like is happening. Feels like. They lost in court the other day. Hedge Seth did about who can censorship. Pretty much, it's still censorship. And it's on purpose.
The credit unions weren't brought to the table. The administration floated this in February, got hammered by its own Treasury staff and by Wall Street, quietly shelved it, and then the Treasury Secretary revived it at a dinner 2 days ago without addressing a single one of the concerns that forced the delay in the first place. That's not leadership, accounts, which this order proposes. You're looking at an additional 85 million hours minimum and another 6.5 billion in costs. Those aren't my numbers. Those are the numbers from people who generally support less regulation, not more. Let me tell you something about governing. When I was in the White House, we didn't always get it right. Nobody does. But we had a process. Before we announced the major financial regulation, we talked to the banks. We talked to the Fed. We talked to consumer advocates. We stress tested our ideas. We asked the hard question, who gets hurt? What troubles me about this proposal is that it appears to have skipped all of those steps. The banking industry wasn't consulted in a meaningful way. The credit unions weren't brought to the table. The administration floated this in February, got hammered by its own Treasury staff and by Wall Street, quietly shelved it, and then the Treasury Secretary revived it at a dinner 2 days ago without addressing a single one of the concerns that forced the delay in the first place. That's not leadership, that's performance. And I want to address something Senator Tom Cotton said, because it gets to the heart of a real philosophical disagreement. Senator Cotton
Hey,
wrote that
Sean.
access to the American banking system is a privilege that should be reserved for those who respect our laws. Now, I respect Senator Cotton's service to this country, but I have to push back on that framing. For an American citizen, access to your own money is not a privilege. It is a fundamental part of participating in modern life. You can't receive a paycheck without a bank account. You can't pay rent electronically. You can't build credit. Calling that a privilege is redefining what it means to be a citizen in this country. David Lesperance, a respected immigration attorney, warned that most average Americans, including die-hard MAGA supporters,
Interesting.
do not currently possess the necessary documentation to prove their nationality. They would be, in his words, debanked.
You have an
That's a
iPhone?
leadership failure. When your policy hurts the very people you claim to serve, something has gone wrong. Now, we've got to remember what banks are actually for. Banks exist to hold people's money safely,
Safely.
to facilitate commerce, to extend credit,
That's okay.
and to keep the economy
Okay, so
moving.
so that it won't look like spam, you know. When I see it repeating it, I remove one of them so that it won't come across as spam. Who resigned? Where you? Hold on.
Of participating in modern life. You can't receive a paycheck without a bank account. You can't pay rent electronically. You can't build credit. Calling that a privilege is redefining what it means to be a citizen in this country. David Lesperance, a respected immigration attorney, warned that most average Americans, including die-hard MAGA supporters, do not currently possess the necessary documentation to prove their nationality. They would be, in his words, debanked. That's a leadership failure. When your policy hurts the very people you claim to serve, something has gone wrong. Now, we've got to remember what banks are actually for. Banks exist to hold people's money safely, to facilitate commerce, to extend credit, and to keep the economy moving. They are not law enforcement agencies. They are not Border Patrol. And the moment you start turning them into instruments of immigration policy, you change what they are, and you change the public's trust in them. America's credit union's president, Scott Simpson, sent a letter to Secretary Besant just this week, warning that these burdens would fall particularly hard on smaller institutions with limited compliance resources. He specifically requested that any new requirements apply only to new accounts, not retroactively to existing ones, because requiring citizenship documentation for current customers would present, in his words, substantial operational challenges. Now think about that. The community banks and rural credit unions that serve small towns across America, many of them in deep red districts, would be the ones least equipped to handle this mandate. They don't have armies of compliance officers. They don't have billion-dollar technology budgets. They serve farmers and retirees and small business owners who have banked with them for decades. And now you're telling those institutions to go back and
Dang it, I didn't take my
re-verify
olive oregano
every
today.
single customer? Here's the honest truth. When you push people out of the formal banking system, they don't just stop needing financial services. They go underground. They turn to check cashing stores that charge predatory fees. They turn to unregulated channels. And legal permanent residents, people here lawfully on visas, may withdraw from the banking system entirely out of fear. That doesn't make America safer. It makes America's financial system less transparent, less stable, and less fair. Now, I've spent my whole career studying the intersection of policy and politics, and I have to say, this one is as clear a case of a political backfire as I have ever seen. Let me walk you through the geography. The 10 states with the lowest passport rates in America, all below 37%, voted for Donald Trump in the last 3 elections. West Virginia, where only about 2 in 10 residents hold a passport. Mississippi, Arkansas.
Here's why mushrooms are a superfood you need to have. I start every single day off with 5 different kinds of mushrooms that help me both physically and mentally. First up, cordyceps.
Alabama. These are the heartland communities that put this president in office. And they are the communities that would be hit first and hardest by a citizenship verification mandate for bank accounts. Now add the wait times. If millions of Americans suddenly need to get documentation, here's what they're facing. A U.S. passport takes 4 to 6 weeks. A real ID, which wouldn't even qualify, takes 2 to 6 weeks. And a certificate of naturalization, that takes between 5.5 and 14 months. 14 months. Imagine telling a retired coal miner in West Virginia that he can't access his checking account for over a year because he needs to prove he's an American citizen. And here's the deeper irony that I don't think enough people are talking about. The Trump administration built a significant part of its political brand on opposing the debanking of conservatives. They argued, and in some cases rightly, that financial institutions were being pressured to close accounts based on political viewpoints. And now this same administration is proposing what could become the largest debanking operation in American history. Not of political opponents, but of their own voters. You can't make this up. If a novelist wrote this, an editor would send it back and say it's too on the nose. So where does this go from here? I see 3 possible scenarios, and I want to walk through each one honestly. The first scenario is that the order goes through as drafted. If that happens, we are looking at mass confusion. Millions of Americans scrambling for documents they don't have. Banks overwhelmed by the compliance burden. Billions of dollars in costs that will inevitably be passed down to customers through higher fees. A litigation avalanche because legal experts are already raising serious questions about due process and equal protection. And a political backlash from the president's own base when folks in rural America start getting letters from their banks saying their accounts are frozen. The second scenario is that the order gets watered down. The administration quietly pivots to a lighter version. Maybe citizenship checks only for new accounts or allowing banks to self-certify. That would be a face-saving move, and frankly, it might be the most politically convenient one. But it would also be a tacit admission that the original proposal was unworkable. And it still wouldn't solve any security problem that isn't already addressed by existing anti-money laundering and know your customer frameworks that banks have followed for decades. The third scenario, and the one I think is most likely, is that this order gets shelved again. The banking industry pushes back, credit unions push back, Republican members of Congress whose constituents would be hurt push back, and the administration quietly lets it die. But here's what people need to understand. Even if the order never takes effect, the damage is already being done. The announcement itself creates uncertainty. It signals to the financial system that the government is willing to use banks as political instruments. And that erosion of institutional trust, that's harder to repair than any single executive order. Let me close with something I've thought about a lot over the years. The measure of a government, any government, is not how loudly it announces its intentions. It's how carefully it considers the consequences for the people it serves. I want to be clear. I understand the desire to secure our borders. I understand the concern about fraud and about people being in this country without authorization. When I was president, we took border security seriously too. But there is a world of difference between enforcing immigration law and proposing a policy that could lock millions of your own citizens out of their bank accounts. One is governance. The other is institutional recklessness dressed up as toughness. The banking system is not a weapon to be deployed in a culture war. It is a public trust, a piece of infrastructure as vital as roads and bridges that every American depends on to live their daily life. When you threaten to cut people off from their own money to score political points, you are not strengthening America. You are undermining the very fabric of ordinary life that holds this country together. And here's what gives me hope. The American people have a way of seeing through this. They always have. The banks are pushing back. The credit unions are pushing back. Analysts across the political spectrum are saying this doesn't add up.
Nope.
And I truly believe that when people understand what this proposal would actually do to them and their families, they will demand better from their leaders.
Let me back
We've
this up
survived
some, y'all.
worse than this.
I don't know if we will
Our
survive.
heartland communities that put this president in office.
Who?
And they are the communities. Let me walk you through the geography. The 10 states with the lowest passport rates in America, all below 37%, voted for Donald Trump in the last 3 elections. West Virginia, where only about 2 in 10 residents hold a passport. Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama. These are the heartland communities that put this president in office. And they are the communities that would be hit first and hardest by a citizenship verification mandate for bank accounts. Now add the wait times. If millions of Americans, here's what they're facing. A U.S. passport takes 4 to 6 weeks. A real ID, which wouldn't even qualify, takes 2 to 6 weeks. And a certificate of naturalization, that takes between 5.5 and 14 months. 14 months. A retired coal miner in West Virginia that he can't access his checking account for over a year because he needs to prove he's an American citizen. And here's the deeper irony that I don't think enough people are talking about.
This device just keeps saving me from getting scammed when traveling. If you've ever struggled to order food, ask for directions, or just connect.
The Trump administration built a significant part of its political brand on opposing the debanking of conservatives. They argued, and in some cases rightly, that financial institutions were being pressured. This same administration is proposing what could become the largest debanking operation in American history, not of political opponents, but of their own voters. You can't make this up. If a novelist
Y'all see this?
wrote this,
Bank
an
of
editor
America,
would send it back and say
Chase.
it's too on the nose.
Get your money.
So where does this go from here? And I want to walk through each one honestly. The first scenario is that the order goes through as drafted. If that happens, we are looking at mass confusion. Millions of Americans scrambling for documents they don't have. Banks overwhelmed by the compliance burden. Billions of dollars in costs that will inevitably be passed down to customers through higher fees. A litigation avalanche because legal experts are already raising serious questions about due process and equal protection. And a political backlash from the president's own base when folks in rural America start getting letters from their banks saying their accounts are frozen. The second scenario is that the order gets watered down. The administration quietly pivots to a lighter version. Maybe citizenship checks only for new accounts or allowing banks to self-certify. That would be a face-saving move, and frankly, it might be the most politically convenient one. But it would also be a tacit
Currently has
admission
42
that the original
active
proposal
national
was unworkable.
emergencies.
And it still wouldn't solve any
To steal our
security
money.
problem that isn't already addressed by existing anti-money laundering and know your customer frameworks that banks have followed for decades. The third scenario, and the one I think is most likely, is that this order gets shelved again. The banking industry pushes back, credit unions push back, Republican members of Congress whose constituents would be hurt push back, and the administration quietly lets it die. But here's what people need to understand. Even if the order never takes effect, the damage is already being done. The announcement itself creates uncertainty. It signals to the financial system that the government is willing to use banks as political instruments. And that erosion of institutional trust, that's harder to repair than any single executive order. Let me close with something I've thought about a lot over the years. The measure of a government, any government, is not how loudly it announces its intentions. It's how carefully it considers the consequences for the people it serves.
That's why they demonetized me today.
I want to be clear. I understand the desire to secure our borders.
Oh my
I
God.
understand the concern about fraud and about people being in this country without authorization. When I was president, we took border security seriously too. But there is a world of difference between enforcing immigration law and proposing a policy that could lock millions of your own citizens out of their bank accounts. One is governance. The other is institutional recklessness dressed up as toughness. The banking system is not a weapon to be deployed in a culture war. It is a public trust, a piece of infrastructure as vital as roads and bridges that every American depends on to live their daily life. When you threaten to cut people off from their own money to score political points, you are not strengthening America. You are undermining the very fabric of ordinary life that holds this country together. And here's what gives me hope. The American people have a way of seeing through this. They always have. The banks are pushing back. The credit unions are pushing back. Analysts across the political spectrum are saying this doesn't add up. And I truly believe, that when people understand what this proposal would actually do to them and their families, they will demand better from their leaders. We've survived worse than this. Our institutions are stressed, but they are not broken. And as long as citizens keep paying attention, keep asking questions, and keep holding their leaders accountable, this democracy will endure. It always has. But it only it does because we insist on it.
Absolutely. And we making moves. We got to get 10 steps ahead. That's all I try to do. Let me see what else I got. I'm running out of time. It's so much going on. I tried to tell y'all that earlier. So much going on all at once. Hold on. Please hit the like button. Support the platform. My Cash App is pinned. Please support on TV and listen to that. I think we listened to that. Never tried. Hold on.
Hi, I'm Chef Rick Bayless, and these are my barbacoa beef enchiladas. The first thing we do for the barbacoa beef.
Appreciate it. Welcome to the beat, everyone. We are prepping. Appreciate it. Welcome to the beat, everyone. We are prepping a lot tonight. Former Trump White House official, Counselor Ty Cobb on the Donald Trump DOJ overreach, plus questions about Trump's mental acuity. We are talking about someone who is as credible as they come and has been a straight talker. Ty Cobb coming up. By the end of the hour, famed New York novelist Jay McInerney is here. We begin with Trump's agenda swamped by blunders and an inability to message. There is a rolling backlash to Donald Trump posting that he is a type of Jesus, something that he lied about in a strange denial. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth also getting into the religious game now. He says that journalists who report on Trump's mistakes in Iran or the wider war are like biblical figures who betrayed, of course, because look at the comparison they keep trying to make, which their own supporters have called blasphemy. It's like,
hold on, we gotta go here. I forgot about this one.
Donald Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary, who was convicted of the felony of heroin possession during the 14 years that he admits to having been a heroin addict, is the first cabinet secretary in history, indeed the only administration official in the administration of any president in history who wants to rip every black child in America out of the arms of that child's mother and that child's father. Every single black child.
Are y'all listening with your good ear?
Robert Kennedy Jr. believes that every black child in America.
Are y'all listening with y'all good ear? What did I tell y'all that making America great again really means deep down? Hey, JR. What did I tell y'all that making America great again really means?
Donald Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary, who was convicted of the felony of heroin possession during the 14 years that he admits to having been a heroin addict, is the first cabinet secretary in history, indeed the only administration official in the administration in history who wants to rip every black child in America out of the arms of that child's mother and that child's father. Every single black child. Robert Kennedy Jr. believes that every black child in America has bad parents and that every black child in America needs to be reparented. That is his personal Nazi word for it, reparented. He did not say
Reparented.
that some black children need to be reparented by him. He did not say that thousands of black children need to be reparented. He said, quote, every black kid needs to be reparented by the federal government and institutions run by him. Yes, it's insane. Yes.
Yeah, to put them in some organized crime facility where they're able to be enslaved and raped at any time. Oh, Lord.
He is obviously insane. Yes, it's the single most racist thing said in the 21st century in America and possibly ever in America. And I, for one, along with most people, did not know that he said that 2 years ago when he was a presidential candidate until Congresswoman Terry Sewell confronted him today in a House Ways and Means Committee hearing.
This is the biggest magnesium scam.
Y'all gonna
New
believe me
study
one day.
reveals microplastics found in 90% of all magnesium.
In a 2024 podcast interview, you suggested that children on ADHD medication should be reparented. You said every black kid is now just standardly put on Adderall, SSRI, benzos, which are known to induce violence, and that those children are going to have to go somewhere to get reparented. There is a lot to unpack in that comment. I know that you've already answered several of the questions I was going to ask, and so I'm just going to rephrase them. Mr. Secretary, you've already admitted that you are not board certified physician, and you've already admitted that you did not go to medical school. Have you ever reparented, or parented, I should say, a black child?
I don't even know what that phrase means, and I doubt
just
that
a yes
I
or
said
no
it.
answer.
I doubt that I
Yes,
said that phrase.
you
No,
absolutely
I'm not going to answer something that I didn't say.
You absolutely said it.
And here is that deeply perverted, racist madman absolutely saying it.
Oh, let's go.
Every black kid is now just standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence. And those kids are going to have a chance to go somewhere and get reparented.
Donald Trump gave that sick racist a job after he said that, and every Republican senator voted for the confirmation of that poison.
Every black kid is now just standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence. And those kids are going to have a chance to go somewhere and get reparented.
Donald Trump gave that sick racist a job after he said that, and every Republican senator voted for the confirmation of that poisonous racist. Joining us now is Michael Steele, co-host of The Weeknight here on MS Now. Michael, when I came across this today, I immediately hoped you could join us tonight, and I just want to hand the microphone to you.
Well, Lars, thank you. You know, man, just when you think you've kind of rounded all the bases, and okay, we're clear. There can't be anything more stupid or more racist or more insane. Enter RFK Jr. Thank you, first off, for setting this conversation up the way you did, because you systematically went through the facts. You systematically laid out what the man said in his own words. Couple of things. First off, there is no evidence that black children are universally or even disproportionately medicated the way he just described. Quite the opposite, Lawrence. What the problem is in the black community for a lot of parents who are dealing with children who have mental health issues, is actually getting the medication that they need. Actually having access to the healthcare system that this fool now runs. And so the reality of coming on in saying this, whether as a presidential candidate or sitting there and not even realizing 2 years later that not only did you say it, but this is an attitude that you openly expressed, speaks again about just how unfit you are for the job. Second thing that I think to keep in mind is the type of medication he's talking about. Again, it's not used for the kind of thing that behavior he described. In fact, Adderall is something that reduces impulsivity. It's something that is put in place to help lower the rates of risky or aggressive behavior, right? So where did that come from? Oh, maybe the stereotyping of young black kids as being overly aggressive. I have two black children, sons especially. I can't tell you the number of times we had to deal with issues around their behavior if they got too aggressive, particularly when they were younger. And so the reality of it is, if that's the go-to, Lawrence, that when a child acts out as a lot of children do, and sometimes gets a little bit rough and tough in the tumble of the playground, you're going to then go, oh well, that they're aggressive, they're behaving a certain way. That again feeds the stereotype that goes back so many generations in black communities. And I think one of the last points is, the adultification of kids, of young black boys especially, ties into this reparenting BS. Who gonna raise my child? That fool? I thought the congresswoman asked the right question. Have you ever parented, let alone reparented, a black kid? Have you ever had to deal with not just the economic, the political, the education, but the social stigmas that child has to grow up with just by being black? Look, I'm not on your show tonight making excuses for crap. I'm not out here trying to explain away everything. But this is a man who's in a position of responsibility in our government and who's expressed a view about black kids. Not just some, as you noted, but all of them. And so what are black parents to expect when they have to access this system with this numbnut sitting at the top of it, dictating the terms of how we're going to receive health care, who gets health care, what kind of health care they're going to get, what type of mental health needs they need to be addressed, and how do we deal with broader societal issues along race and economics that feed the current system to push out the kind of nonsense he's talking about.
Michael, I saw it as an attack on black children and black parents, all of them, which is why it was so important for us to be able to hear from you tonight. Michael Steele, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
This is crazy, y'all. This is crazy. It's too long. Hold on. Ooh. Where my likes at?
Appreciate it. Welcome to the beat,
y'all
everyone.
please
We
support
are
my
prepping a
platform,
lot
please.
tonight. Former Trump
The only
White
way at
House
this time to
official,
support me is by
Counselor
way
Ty Cobb
of
on the Donald Trump
Cash
DOJ
App.
overreach, plus questions about Trump's mental acuity. We are talking about someone who is as credible as they come and has been a straight talker.
I'm trying to get back to that T. Hold on. $AUNTEAFE. Which one do we hear? Let's hear this one. I gotta change
He
my
wrote
Cash
that
App.
Iran in his assessment. Now, I want you to sit with me for a minute. Just sit with me. Because something happened this week that I think deserves more than a headline. It deserves a conversation. Today, on April 16th, 2026, the President of the United States went on Truth Social and asked the country, and I'm quoting, "Who's dumber, Tucker Carlson or Joe Kent?" Now, if you don't know who Joe Kent is, let me tell you. Joe Kent is a former Green Beret. He served in combat for over 20 years. And on January 16th, 2019, his wife, Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer Shannon Kent, was killed by an ISIS suicide bomber in Manbij, Syria. She was the first female combat death in Syria since operations began against ISIS. She left behind 2 young sons. Joe Kent buried his wife. He raised those boys. He ran for Congress twice because he believed in this country enough to keep serving it. And then the president he supported appointed him to run the National Counterterrorism Center. And when Joe Kent looked at the intelligence and decided he couldn't support the war in Iran, he resigned on principle. And for that, the president called him a sleazebag, called him a loser, said he only hired him because he felt sorry for him. And we'll come back to that, because those words reveal something far bigger than a personal grudge. They reveal something about where American leadership is right now. And that ought to concern every single one of us. Now look, to understand why this matters, you've got to understand the sequence of events. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a massive joint military assault on Iran. Airstrikes on Tehran, targeted assassinations of senior leadership. The stated goal was regime change. This was the most significant American military action in the Middle East since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Joe Kent was serving as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center at the time. That's not a ceremonial job. That office was created after September 11th to make sure we never got blindsided again. The person running it has access to the most sensitive intelligence in the country. On March 17th, 2026, Kent resigned. He wrote that Iran, in his assessment, posed no imminent threat to the United States. He said he believed Israeli officials and certain media narratives had influenced the decision to strike. That is a serious charge from a serious person inside the room. And here's where things start to fracture. Because Kent wasn't some liberal critic or cable news pundit. He was one of Trump's own. He'd supported the president since 2016. He was MAGA through and through. And when he walked away, he didn't do it for attention. He did it because his conscience told him to. Now, the president responded the way he often does. He attacked. And what followed was a cascade. Tucker Carlson criticized the war. Candace Owens raised concerns. Megyn Kelly pushed back. And one by one, the president branded them all low IQ losers. That's not a policy defense. That's a purge. Let me tell you something. Words from a president are never just words. They carry the weight of the office. Every syllable lands differently when it comes from the most powerful person on earth. So let's be precise about what was said. Today, the president wrote that he met Joe Kent at a dignified transfer ceremony at Dover Air Force Base, the moment Shannon Kent's remains were brought home. Then he wrote, and I want you to hear this carefully, feeling sorry for him after the 2 election losses, I told my people, hire him for the White House, give him a job, make him feel good. He lost his wife. Now think about that. The president is saying publicly that he gave one of the most sensitive intelligence positions in the United States government to a man out of pity, not competence. The president is saying publicly that he gave one of the most sensitive intelligence positions in the United States government to a man out of pity, not competence, not merit, pity. That alone should alarm you, because it means either the president is lying about why he appointed a national security official, or he actually did fill a critical post based on sympathy rather than qualification. Neither answer is good. Then on March 23rd, just days after the resignation, the president told reporters his wife was killed. He remarried fairly quickly. He said that about a Gold Star husband, a man who lost his wife to a suicide bomber. And the president used that grief, that private decision to rebuild a life, as a line of attack. Let me be honest. I've seen a lot of rough politics. I've been on the receiving end of plenty. But using a fallen service member's death to score points against her surviving husband crosses a line that I didn't think we'd ever have to draw. Now here's the honest truth. When you're president, it happens every single day. And if you're doing your job right, you want them to. You want people in the room who will look you in the eye and say, Mr. President, I think you're wrong. Because that's how you avoid catastrophic mistakes. I had plenty of disagreements in my White House. I had cabinet members who pushed back hard on policy, on Bosnia, on welfare reform, on the budget. Sometimes they were right and I was wrong. Sometimes I overruled them and it turned out fine. But here's what I never did. I never went in front of the cameras and called someone a loser for having a different view. I never attacked their intelligence. I never used their personal tragedy as a weapon. Because here's what experienced leaders understand. When someone resigns on principle during a conflict, you can disagree with their judgment. You can say they were wrong about the intelligence. You can make the case that your decision was sound. That's fair. That's governance. But what you don't do is try to destroy them personally. You don't say you hired them out of pity. You don't mock their grief. Because the moment you do that, you're not defending your policy. You're telling everyone else in government, if you cross me, I will humiliate you. And that is how you build a culture of silence around a president who is making life and death decisions. Kent served 20 years in combat. He earned his position. Whatever you think about his judgment on Iran, the man deserved to be answered with arguments, not insults. Now we've got to remember something important. The National Counterterrorism Center exists for one reason: to protect Americans. It was built from the ashes of the worst intelligence failure in our history. After 9/11, we created that office because we realized our agencies weren't talking to each other. We needed one place where all the threads came together. The person running the NCTC has to be someone who will tell the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. especially when it's uncomfortable. Because the whole point of that office is to prevent the next catastrophe by making sure the president hears the hardest truths first. Now imagine you're a mid-level intelligence analyst at the NCTC right now. You've watched your former director resign over a policy disagreement. You've watched the president call him a sleazebag. You've watched him mock the
No
man's
respect.
dead wife. And you're sitting on an assessment that
Hey,
contradicts the White House's preferred narrative
Hey,
about how the Iran campaign is going. What do?
Adama,
Let me tell you what happens. You soften the language. You hedge. You leave out the conclusion that might get you noticed. And that is the
You're
most
welcome,
dangerous outcome of all. Because it means the president's intelligence is being shaped not by what's true, but by what's safe. We have a term for that in governance. It's called politicized intelligence. And it's what led us into Iraq in 2003. We paid for that mistake with thousands of American lives, trillions of dollars, and decades of instability. I would hate to see us walk that same road again because good people were too afraid to speak. Now let me put on my political hat for a moment, because this is where things get really interesting from a strategic standpoint. In the span of a few weeks, President Trump has publicly attacked Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones, and Joe Kent. Think about who those people are. They're not Democrats. They're not liberal critics. They are the people who built the MAGA media ecosystem. They're the ones who carried the message to millions of voters. In 40 years of American politics, I have never seen a sitting president systematically attack the core of his own coalition during a war. It's historically unprecedented. And it tells you something important. This isn't about policy disagreement. If it were, you'd see a vigorous public debate about Iran strategy. Instead, what you see is a loyalty test. And anyone who fails it, no matter how long they've been faithful, gets branded a traitor. Now here's the political reality. 2026 midterms are coming. Republican candidates across the country have to decide where they stand. Do they align with the president and risk alienating the growing number of conservatives who have doubts about Iran? Or do they echo Kent's concerns and risk the same treatment he received? That's a terrible position for a party to be in during wartime. When your coalition holds together only through fear of one man's social media account, that's not strength, that's fragility. And fragile coalitions don't govern well. They certainly don't win wars well. The irony here is hard to miss. Joe Kent was as loyal a MAGA supporter as they come, and he was cast out overnight for one act of conscience. So where does all of this lead? Let me walk through what I think are the most likely scenarios based on what I've seen in decades of watching how power works. First, and this is the most probable, more officials quietly leave or go silent. They won't resign publicly the way Kent did because they've seen what happens. They'll just stop pushing back in meetings. They'll retire early. They'll tell themselves it's not worth it. And the president will be surrounded by people who tell him only what he wants to hear. During an active military conflict, that's not just bad governance, it's dangerous. Second, Kent and the dissenting voices could become the nucleus of something new inside the Republican Party. A faction that says, we supported this president, but we won't support an endless war, and we won't accept the destruction of everyone who disagrees. If that happens, the 2026 midterms become about more than seats. They become a fight for the soul of conservatism. Third, and this is what worries me most, the war itself is affected. You've lost your counterterrorism director. You've sent a signal to every intelligence professional that MAGA supporter as they come. And he was cast out overnight for one act of conscience. So where does all of this lead? Let me walk through what I think are the most likely scenarios based on what I've seen in decades of watching how power works. First, and this is the most probable, more officials quietly leave or go silent. They won't resign publicly the way Kent did because they've seen what happens. They'll just stop pushing back in meetings. They'll retire early. They'll tell themselves it's not worth it. And the president will be surrounded by people who tell him only what he wants to hear. During an active military conflict, that's not just bad governance, it's dangerous. Second, Kent and the dissenting voices could become the nucleus of something new inside the Republican Party. A faction that says, we supported this president, but we won't support an endless war, and we won't accept the destruction of everyone who disagrees. If that happens, the 2026 midterms become about more than seats. They become a fight for the soul of conservatism. Third, and this is what worries me most, the war itself is affected. You've lost your counterterrorism director. You've sent a signal to every intelligence professional that dissent equals destruction. The quality of analysis degrades, and decisions get made in an information vacuum. The most dangerous intelligence failure is the one that never gets reported because someone was afraid of being called a loser on social media. The American people deserve leaders who are brave enough to hear the truth. I hope, genuinely hope, that someone in that building is still willing to deliver it. Let me close with this. I keep coming back to Shannon Kent, a brilliant woman, a warrior, a mother of two. She spoke multiple languages, served multiple combat tours, and gave her life fighting ISIS in a place most Americans will never see on a map. Her sacrifice was sacred. It was supposed to be beyond politics. And yet here we are, in 2026, watching that sacrifice get dragged into a presidential grudge match because her husband dared to say he thought a war was wrong. That bothers me. It should bother you too, regardless of your party. Now look, President Trump and I will never see eye to eye on most things. That's fine. That's democracy. But there are certain things that should transcend partisanship. How we treat Gold Star families is one of them. How we handle dissent during wartime is another. And whether we allow any president of any party to turn our intelligence agencies into loyalty machines is a question that goes to the very heart of our national security. I've lived long enough to know that America corrects course. We always have. After Vietnam, after Watergate, after Iraq, we found our way back to something better. but it didn't happen by accident. It happened because ordinary people, voters, service members, public servants, said enough and demanded something higher. That's what I'm asking for now. Not a partisan fight, not anger, just a simple, clear-eyed insistence that the presidency is bigger than any one man's pride. That the people who serve this country deserve better than being humiliated for telling the truth. And that a democracy only works when we protect the right to disagree, especially when it's hardest. Thank you for listening. Take care.
God bless. Okay, so listen, y'all. I'm about to hop down. I got a live set up for 12:15. Come back and we're going to listen to Candace and try to catch up on a little before I fall asleep. But tea sippers, I wanted to show y'all this because I'm gonna tell you why I said what I said about being demonetized. So will nobody come, try to take claim for nothing. That's not it. Let me show you what it says. Can y'all see that? And why I say it's for censorship because in our authentic content, somewhere else when I did research, it was mentioning AI content that appears to be mass produced. I thought about them Legos and repetitive to increase views without adding significant education. I pretty much add education, but as I read that this is something that they implemented on the 31st that hit a lot of people that had been monetized and excuse me, for years. And it's censorship. The more people that hears and know the truth, the worse it is for Trump. So that's it right there. That's where the definition of why I was demonetized. Yes, I will appeal it. But if it's about the truth going out and a lot of people hearing it, then, that's going to be hard to win. And then again, the only thing that I can just really think that has changed for me is the little AI, the little Lego things. I took great pleasure and laughter in it. And when I realized how much detail they were providing, and that's why I am not, I want to be honest about it because, it was new to me and I didn't want to accuse anybody of doing something. And then when I did a little research, I saw that this was a plan. And a lot happened for today that it hit me. And I'm coming back. I'm finna hop in the bath. Finna hop in, get situated for bed. And I have a live set. I don't know why I'm giving myself 20 minutes. So go get, y'all get ready. I'm planning to be back before 12:30. I think I got it scheduled for 12:20. So when I end this live, it should direct you to go to another live, hit where it says go now, and it'll put you into that chat. You can go ahead and hit the like button, say a comment, I'm here, made it, found it, and then I'll be there around 12:20. Okay, is that okay with everybody? Is that okay with everybody? Hello, y'all still with me? You're welcome, Joe. Okay, yeah, it should take y'all over there. And I'm finna end it now. There's just way too much going on. They should have left them babies alone. One of those, the witnesses, the females, I heard Sasha Riley has a new update as well. So I'll see y'all soon.